All right, I'm going to tell you today how to create relationships with safe people. Now, if you've ever found yourself feeling super confused or frustrated, like why do I keep finding myself drawn to the same people that I'm trying really hard not to connect with? Why do I keep getting drawn to people who are super elusive? They never give me a straight answer. This is so frustrating. And, I'm initiating so much, but I rarely get reciprocated with. Or I'm finding myself, connecting to people who constantly tell me what to do. They don't listen. They don't know how to attune to me. I don't know why I keep doing this. Now, part of the reason why this happens is because despite what our thinking brains know and think to be right or good or what's in our best interest, we have two bottom brains called the emotional and the reflexive brain, namely the mammal or the lizard brain. These two guys are older than our thinking brain, and these have seniority. So whatever we're used to, whatever stored down here, the patterns that we've experienced growing up, what we saw in our families of origin or in our early life connections with friends, etc. These are going to be the manuals that kind of strongly inform how we interact with people as adults in the present. It's not a rational thing per se, but it is a very important thing to tune into, because whatever is stored down here that is unresolved is going to have a strong influence on what happens in the present. Now, as an example, when I was a kid growing up, I didn't have a whole lot of friends. I moved around a lot and got pretty depressed. And one of the ways by which I cope was by playing video games. I like video games because every time I messed up or got an undesirable ending, I would just turn off the game and turn it back on, and I can get a second or third or fourth shot. I can do this over and over again until I got a desired ending. Well, in similar ways, our bodies do the same thing, where our bodies are trying really hard to resolve these old pains from a long time ago. Maybe this time I won't have the same kind of ending. Maybe this time I can actually make these relationships work. It's just that when we try to bring about a different ending while still engaging in the same factors, still connecting with people who have similar character traits, we're probably going to end up with similar outcomes. And unlike video games, where the only main determining factor is how the player does, in relationships, it's a whole new set of variables that depends on the other person, whether or not the other person is willing to do their own personal work. So there are some ways by which we can look for signs of people who are safe and who are different from people who are unsafe. But the thing is, some of those items on these respective lists may be mix and match in our own bodies. We don't quite know what is safe and what is unsafe unless we talk to someone else who's had a very different set of experiences, very different kinds of relationships. We realize that we know what we know and we don't know what we don't know, and what we thought was safe was actually unsafe, and vice versa. So I have a chart here. It's called the Safe People chart. This is a set of traits from the book Safe People by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. You may have heard of them. They're the authors of the book Boundaries. But there are some traits that depict those who are generally leaning towards the unsafe from those who generally lean towards the safe side. And some examples are folks who are unsafe tend to not take responsibility for a lot of things. They tend to think that they have it all together. They tend to think that other people are the problem and they're off the hook. They tend to have mixed experiences of intimacy, so they either lean too dependent or too codependent or too counterdependent, the last one meaning they're allergic to relying on other people. They see the world in polarities, in all or nothing, instead of being a mystery or a combination of both and so these folks tend to be drawn towards other people of similar levels of unsafety. And it's important to know what those signs are so that you can first identify them in yourself and then also be able to look for it in other people. On the other hand, some signs of safety are people who take ownership of their own personal work. They're not pointing the finger at other people and blaming others. They know what their limitations are because they too are human, and they're able to acknowledge when they've messed up It doesn't, put them into a shame spiral. They're able to speak to the truth. They're able to show up for the full range of emotions. They don't pick and choose which emotions are good or bad, and so on and so forth. So this chart is in a downloadable PDF on my website. The link is in the comments below. And the main way by which you can make relationships with safe people, because you don't have control over other people and their level of health, is therefore for you to become a safe person yourself. That is the main way by which people can make connections that are thriving and vibrant. And part of the reason is because we're going to end up replicating on the outside what's actually reality on the inside. Healthy people aren't drawn to unhealthy people because they see them as being too chaotic. On the other hand, unhealthy people aren't going to be drawn towards healthy people because it's boring. It's not what their bodies are used to. When people, their bodies are used to chaos and they enter into a relationship that is peaceful and very grounded, their bodies don't know what to do. They kind of panic. Now, so as a way for you to create better bonds with other people where both of you matter, it's not either or, one is not inherently better or worse than the other, it's really important for you to do your personal work. So if you want to learn more, check out the blog that has this chart below. And my recommendation to you is go down the chart and see how many of these traits in the safe person category resonate with you or reflect you, and how many are so in the unsafe category. You're not going to find a person who's 100% safe in the same way you're not going to find a person who's 100% unsafe. Every one of us are on a spectrum, and it's important to know where the needle points so that you know specifically what are your specific areas of growth so that that no longer is a blind spot for you. I wish you well in creating these good connections, and I'll see you next time.